The Maasai Mara, nestled in the heart of Kenya in East Africa, is home to one of nature's most breathtaking spectacles, the Great Migration, where millions of wildebeest, zebras and other wildlife traverse the vast savannah in search of water and grazing. Within this iconic ecosystem lies Nashulai Maasai Conservancy, a rare example of an indigenous community-owned conservation model. Created by the Maasai community, Nashulai Maasai Conservancy combines ancestral knowledge with modern conservation methods to protect their land and heritage. By uniting across villages, they removed their fences, revived rotational grazing, and adopted sustainable practices, proving that people, livestock, and wildlife can coexist. This week on the program, we explore this unique conservation model and uncover how conservation has become a tool for cultural preservation and economic empowerment. I'm Beatrice Marshall from the Nashulai Maasai Conservancy in the Maasai Mara. Welcome to Talk Africa. I'm now joined by the co-founder of Nashulai Maasai Conservancy, Nelson Olereya. Now, guided by a deep connection to their Maasai heritage, Nelson led the community in transforming this land into one of the first indigenous owned and managed conservancies in East Africa. Nelson, thank you very much. First of all, what inspired you and the community to establish the Nashulai Maasai Conservancy?
We wanted to save our land, which contained all our stories for living. We saw that we are losing our land to land grabbing, fencing, and the Maasai community is a social community. So when they come across fences which are blocking them from accessing their land, we saw that there was an urgent moment to come together. So we decided that we will create a conservation model that will espouse the concept of coexistence, harmonious living, where the community relates to the land in the same way that they have always lived with it for centuries. And that's how we decided that we are going to save our land. We're going to save our land for the sake of our children, the younger generation, because the land is actually borrowed from our children. It doesn't belong to us. It belongs to the wildlife that lives on it. It belongs to future generations. It belongs to posterity. So that's how we came together and created this conservation model that is different from the other conservancies, which are pushing out people from the land, creating modern conservation refugees. We didn't want to go that way.
That's a very interesting concept. How exactly do humans and wildlife coexist here in Nashulai?
We have the traditional villages where the community stays. The villages are not fenced, all right? Although they are fenced strongly so that lions do not come in at night and attack livestock and all that. And then because we have not blocked the wildlife movement, so they have free access to to the land. They move about because Nashulai is a conservancy that is lying on a vital wildlife corridor. It's in between different conservation zones. There are 5 conservancies surrounding us. So when you free up the space and wildlife actually can see that they're not being blocked, then they live harmoniously, and then you even see a reduction in human wildlife conflict.
How challenging was it though? Because it's thousands of acres in the 5 conservancies, but particularly for you, yeah. How challenging was it to align the interest of the entire community to accept, to form a conservancy here?
Well, initially it was a big challenge. One, most of the conservancies that we have in the Mara are run by tourism investors. They are run by foreign entities. And so we were coming together as a community, a poor community. We had a big will to protect the future of our children through the land, but we didn't have the resources. And many did not believe in us, all right? Because our idea was strange. How do you come up with a conservancy where people are not pushed out of the land? because the tourism industry has been made to believe that for the tourists to spend millions of dollars to visit a wildlife sanctuary, they do not have to see the local communities or their cattle. But here we are trying to challenge the norm of the industry. We are saying people remain on the land. So, so it was a challenge because most of the funding institutions do not fund communities directly. They prefer to work with investors. So that is why we had to come up with a different funding model to ensure that our conservancy was sustainable.
Tell me about this funding model, because where did you get the initial funding to start off the conservancy, and what exactly is your funding model?
So once we have identified our story, that we are not turning our community into conservation refugees, then we pitched our story to the global community, all right, where we had people donating $5, $2, something worth a cup of coffee, all right? But then we had thousands of people, 200,000 people. That is how Nashulai was bootstrapped into existence, because we did not want to turn into the bigger agencies, you know, because once you turn into them, then they control the story. You know, they have a different narrative. They want people out of the land, while we are saying we want people within the land. We have to create sustainable communities in conservation.
What sets you apart? Because you've talked about the community not being driven out of the land. What sets you apart from the other conservancies?
People are staying on the land, so we have not pushed them out of the land. We have restored the cultural dignity of our people. We have also proven that the model that works in the 21st century should be people-centered. We should not do everything for tourism, for profit. So this model is also inspiring many, many other communities. So what sets us apart is the harmonious coexistence. And we have also been able to restore the leadership of our elders, the people actually who ensure that cattle can coexist. They come up with rotational grazing plans. The women are restoring the river. The youth are involved in ecosystem regeneration. So we are a people-centered conservation model.
Tell me about the benefits, because a lot of people gave up their land for the conservancy. What kind of community, what kind of benefits does the community get?
Well, first they have guaranteed lease fee payment at the end of the month. So poor families which never had money before now are able to open bank accounts, and they earn a minimum of $100 per family. Others are earning even more. So, and they are still accessing the land for grazing. So, they are earning income from lease fee payment, and they are using the land. Look at the grassland. Look at how rich the grassland is. And, so the cattle are able to access the land. Secondly, we have employed young people from the community as rangers, and they earn employment and money from that. And we are training the community through the college that we have created, because we have identified that our conservancy is a unique model. Maybe tourism cannot work here perfectly. So we have gone the educational way. We have turned our conservancy into a learning center to benefit not only our members, but other community members who want to learn from our endeavor.
This is a very interesting concept, and the fact that the community, it's community-led, community-driven, community-maintained. Is this a sort of model that can this be replicated across the continent probably?
Yes, it can be replicated. And actually we've been having a lot of community members from all over Kenya, even Tanzania, and even as far away as Australia, coming to learn from our concept, because indigenous-led conservation is the way of the future. Already globally, 80% of areas of important biodiversity in our world are protected by indigenous people, like our community of Nashulai here. So we are now actually using the trust that we have gained over the years, because the community has seen, during COVID, we were the one feeding people while the other conservancies closed shop. And now we have the trust of the community, And they're inviting us to work with them to create the longest conservation corridor in East Africa that will stretch along the Kenya and Tanzania border through the Loita forests, which is actually called the Forest of the Lost Child, across over into Magadi, and then it connects all the way to the Amboseli under the shadow of Mount Kilimanjaro. So that is how we are daring to dream, and it is possible because we will not, remove people from the land. We'll just work with them. It's an inclusive model of conservation.
So clearly here at Nashulai, nobody is left behind. What's been the impact of having women and girls in positions of leadership?
Well, so we have a committee of elders, and it comprises of women. Actually, the vice chair of that committee is a woman. So the women are the traditional guardians of the family. Women are the traditional guardians of the family. So we are not leaving them in the decision-making process. They are our mothers. They are the ones who actually protect this land. So they are fully involved. And amazingly, we have seen a total reduction in negative cultural aspects, such as female circumcision, because of the leadership and the empowerment that our women are getting through the Conservancy. We have a poultry project for women to diversify their income opportunities, beadwork for the women, beehives so that they can process honey, and even a cattle project. And of course, our youth are also involved. We are training them so that they can have skills to work in the Maasai Mara, so that they can benefit from the big tourism industry that exists here. So to help show our visitors the Mara through the eyes of the local people.
Nelson, you're doing amazing work here. Thank you very much for speaking to us.
Thank you.
The Maasai Mara is a sanctuary for diverse wildlife, and the Nashulai Maasai Conservancy is showcasing how communities can play a vital role in preserving this delicate ecosystem. I'm now joined by Thomas Muema, the Conservancy Manager, to share insights into their innovative approach to conservation. Thomas, thank you very much for joining us today. First of all, tell us about the Nashulai Maasai Conservancy. It has a very unique, a very interesting conservation model. Talk to us about that.
Yes, it has a very interesting conservation model. Our model is community-based, and which is unique in the Maasai Mara, and which is unique among the conservancies which are here, which are almost 26. The community-based model means you lease your land to Nashulai, but we don't chase you out. So you still remain, but we demand that you remove fences so that we open the land. And then we demarcate the whole conservancy into different zones so that we can control grazing. Where there's settlement, there's some controlled grazing. Where there's settlement, no, zone B, zone C, zone D, like that. But also we have a core area which we leave unoccupied for wildlife and as a grass bank during drought time. So all that is what we are referring to as a community-based model, with benefits going back to the community, and also the community participating in the conservation.
So you have a lot of wildlife, and you also have the community here still has like grazing areas, grazing pastures, have their animals here, their cows here as well. How do you deal with the issue of human-wildlife conflict? Do you have that issue?
Rangers help us a lot in mapping where the wildlife is, and then informing the community. When you are grazing in the grazing area, don't take your livestock here, there are elephants. Don't take your livestock here, there are lions. Don't take your livestock here, there are buffaloes, and so forth. So that one has minimized cases of human-wildlife conflict. But also, there are some who do it illegally. When they are told don't come to this zone, they do it at night, and those ones we don't compensate. Because when you bring it at night, of course the lions will capture the hyenas and so forth, and you end up in a big mess. And we have tried to work with what is called Mara Predators. It's a partner organization which helps us give the community what we call predator-proof bombers. In other words, they are very secure bombers which they make and then they donate to us, and we put in as a bomber for cattle, and the lions can't attack them. And we have put up a consolation fund for those ones who really lose their sheep. At least we give some consolation.
How does that contribute to the well-being of the pastoralists, of the community, and of the livestock and of the wildlife itself?
We have zoned our conservancy into various zones so that we can use it, we can control grazing. That's number one. You are allowed to graze in zone A, then you close it, we go to zone B, like that. And number two, we are also developing the grass and the vegetation in these zones. And we have joined up with the University of Nairobi, Department of Rangeland Management. They usually come here once every year. They do a lot of scientific work, and they have helped us identify the invasive species which destroy grass, and they have helped us also identify areas where we can plant more grass, which is good. So that model helps us plant grass which is useful to the livestock and which will not encourage invasive species to come. And we found out that one very, very useful, and the pastoralists, they found it very useful because it is nutritious and very useful for their livestock. So there is that measuring of the ecosystem, the grass, the invasive species which are there. They are helping all that, and sooner or later you'll find that the areas are really full. But we should also stick to the indigenous varieties, and that one we are trying to do through tree planting. Slowly by slowly we'll start also grasses, planting grass and so forth.
How sustainable is this model, and what are you doing in terms of sustainability projects?
The first sustainability project which we have is the college. We came up with the college because there was a need. We would have these girls and boys go through secondary school, then colleges, but they would get job offers, but they wanted certificates, and they didn't have certificates. So they came back to us, and that's how we started this college. It was a small one. Now we have 250 students who are doing different hospitality courses, environmental courses, also leadership, and we find there's a lot of benefit. And they are really employed in these lodges. There are so many lodges in the Maasai Mara, and a lot of them are employed there, especially ladies. And we are happy because we are uplifting lives of the community here and now beyond. It's now going beyond this county, going to the other counties, and that's a great benefit. Now, this college has started breaking even, which means now it started contributing in the conservation kitty. By conservation kitty, I mean the lease fee kitty, because it's the most expensive. Lease payment is the most expensive item in conservation. So we'll continue developing that model, expanding it, bringing it more courses, and we are registering it as a TVET college with the ministry so that it can open up. And I think it will really help us bring a big chunk of getting us off the lease fee hassle. Then another one is the lodge, the Oldapoi Lodge. It's been there and also developed. Now we have about 80 to 100 rooms, and it benefits the conservation kitty by getting $20 of every bed night of our visitors who visit there. $20 comes to the conservation kitty. We are not yet there, but we are really moving. But for now, the lease fee is really supported by our partners who are interested in conservation.
All right, Thomas Mwema, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much.
The Maasai people are renowned worldwide for their vibrant cultures, deep connections to the land, and rich traditions that have been passed down for generations. However, modern challenges such as land encroachment, climate change and globalization threaten this heritage. At Nashulai, preserving Maasai culture is as important as protecting the land and wildlife. From the Neti Upper Maasai Cultural Knowledge Center to initiatives that celebrate Maasai traditions, the community is working to ensure their heritage thrives for future generations. Well, Musa Kiser is one of the cultural managers at the Nashulai Maasai Conservancy. Musa, why is it so important to conserve Maasai traditions?
It is very important to conserve the Maasai tradition because, you know, in future we are seeing that the Maasai culture is really totally eroding. So we want to make sure that the Maasai culture is still continue for the future generation, because when we continue with the way current world is going, when we are not preserving the culture, then it means we are heading nowhere.
How exactly are you going about that cultural preservation?
Nowadays, we are getting the old men and women to come down and sit to young girls and young men to teach them in the Maasai culture, especially the past traditions on how the Maasai used to do, how they used to take care of their cattle, their life, and also food they used to take. So we are using the old men and women as teachers and mentors of the young generation.
So you want to preserve the Maasai culture. How are the young people learning about documenting the traditions so that these traditions don't erode over years?
Right now, we are trying to bring this young generation on board, and we are trying to engage even the professors in universities to make sure that our culture is being written down and documented. And especially the young people, we are taking them to the field to do some medicinal part as well and document the kind of trees, the kind of herbs that are very important. And also we have the Nashulai Cultural College, which is one of the best in Maasai Mara, that is trying to equip our young people or our young children for the culture, to know how to preserve this culture. How do we preserve this culture? And that is one of the things that we are doing as a Nashulai Cultural College.
Tell me about the older generation. At what stage are they gathering the young people to impart that knowledge?
It is a continuous process. It is a continuous process that we usually do after closing of the school. You know, those people people who went to school, they come back to the elders, and then, you know, they go to take care of the cattle. They go for firewood as girls as well. So it is a continuous process that is being taught by the elders, and no age that is prescribed. But at the Nashulai Maasai Cultural College, we do have after secondary. That is after secondary. That is where we are putting them. But as long as someone is able to talk and communicate in the Maasai, is being taken through. We have what is called the bonfire in Maasai that we used to. So the young boys come and sit down with the old men in the evening. Then they discuss on the culture, how they take care of their cattle. And then the women as well, when they are beading, doing their beadwork as well during the day. That is where they talk with their girls all about their culture. So the culture is a continuous learning process.
What has been the role of education also in terms of preserving the Maasai culture?
The role of education has become a challenge first, because people are taking education as something totally different. And now we are introducing the Maasai culture in education to be part. It is part in our syllabus as Nashulai Cultural College. So it is really becoming something very important. And we are also taking the elders of the college as well to give out all these stories. So the role of education is really becoming it. There before it has become a challenge, but right now everyone want to get in and chip in and know, okay, this is the culture. This is what should be done, and the Maasai culture is very interesting. Now we want we are putting it as a syllabus, giving out stories. Currently, being a cultural manager, I do have some lessons that I teach in cultural. That is about a long time ago, the stories, the herbs, you know, and how the Maasai used to. So education is coming up as well to chip in Maasai tradition.
So many people here, or some people here, are still living in the traditional setup, sort of like in this Manyata where we are right now. How are you going about balancing between the modern way of life in Kenya versus the traditional way of the Maasai life?
The modern culture and the Maasai culture, we are trying to balance it. And one is that we have the Neti Upper, that is a story cafe where we tell people on how the Maasai used to be. So we are teaching the people go for education, then they come back for the education as well for the Maasai culture. So we are trying to balance, make sure that our culture for the landed people is not eroded. So we are bringing them back after school to teach them on the Maasai culture. So we are trying to balance the traditional Maasai culture and the modern culture of education and also Christianity as well.
So tell me more about the Napi Upper Knowledge Center. How was it established and why was it established?
We saw as a Nashulai Conservancy that the Maasai culture is going to an end if we are not careful. So we sat down with the landowners and directors as well and sit down, what can we do? And we came up with the Neti Upper Cultural Center to make sure that the Maasais go back to their tradition. So that is how we started it. And why we started it is that because the Maasai culture is really totally going away, and because people are selling land and, intruders, some other people, traditions and other cultural people are coming, and other tribes and this modern culture. So we saw that if we are not careful with the Maasai culture, then in future, then we will not be having the Maasai culture. And this is the beautiful culture in the world, as well in Africa and in the world as well, because everyone is just coming and want to see the Maasai culture.
In your own words, you're having a lot of, I wouldn't call it invasion, but you have a lot of other cultures coming in to gel with the Maasai culture. How are you ensuring that you're preserving that? How challenging has it been for you?
We do have so many challenges. That is, for us, we do have the education, that is people going to school, and some when they go to school, they go to towns and urban centers as well. And we have also Christianity, which is becoming also another challenge because we have other denominations that doesn't want a Maasai culture. They don't even want to have someone wearing clothes like this. So those are some of the challenges that we are facing. But we are trying to make sure that our Maasai culture, bringing so many people, and showing that the tourists and all other people are admiring our culture. So because other people are admiring, why do we want our people else to erode it? So we are making sure, doing some comparison and also taking people to urban centers and other tradition to see what is happening there and how culture is going away. And coming back here, they now have something that they can tell people that we need to preserve this culture. And another thing is that people are earning because of this culture. When the tourists come to the Manyata, at least they pay something for the Maasai, which sustain the Neti Upper cultural centers. And this is just one of the Manyata, but we have many in Nashulai Conservancy. So that is the modern how we are sustaining it. We are having tourists, and then when they come to the Conservancy, they also come to the visit the Maasai Cultural Center, at least leave something, buy a cloth, buy a necklace, and that is part of giving back to the community.
Right, so looking ahead in terms of cultural preservation, what is the end goal?
At least we want to keep this culture for centuries, for our future generation, the children, grand and grandchildren to come and see, because when you go to other places like, Kajiado, Nairobi, it used to be a Maasai land. And now you can get a Maasai in Nairobi who doesn't even know how to speak Swahili or Maasai language. So the end goal is that we want every Maasai people, every Maasai child growing up, being born, and to be born again as well, to know that there is a very beautiful culture called the Ma culture. And we want everyone to, in the community to know, even if you go to become a professor as well, you come back and learn about our culture.
All right, Musa Kiser, thank you very much.
Thank you too.
What an amazing story from the Nashulai Maasai community. A clear example of a successful local solution to conservation and cultural preservation. But that's all we have time for on this edition of Talk Africa. A very big thank you to the Nashulai Maasai community. Remember, you can be a part of this conversation on our social media platforms, on Facebook and on X. Do also watch this and other editions of Talk Africa on our YouTube playlist. Do join us again next week for more Talk Africa. From me, Beatrice Marshall, and the entire team here at the Nashulai Conservancy in the Maasai Mara. Until next time, it's goodbye.